A man who once walked the earth with bare feet, calloused hands, and eyes like steel. A man whose legend stretches beyond swords and battles, into the very soul of discipline, solitude, and the storm within. Tonight, your story begins. The story of your life, as Miyamoto Musashi. But first, breathe. Let your shoulders relax. Let your mind settle like mist over a quiet forest path. You don't need to be anywhere else. Not now. This moment, this tale, is for you. Now imagine you are not who you were. Forget the clock. Forget the screens. Imagine yourself in another time, another land. The year is 1584. The place, the fractured, blood-soaked soil of Sengoku-era Japan. A time of endless war, when loyalty could shift with the wind, and steel was the only currency that truly mattered. Samurai roam the land like wolves. Clans rise and fall. Temples burn. Cities are built and crushed, like sandcastles beneath tides of ambition. It is an age of chaos, but also of extraordinary individuals. Warriors who carve their names into history, not with pen and ink, but with blades and bone. You are born into this world, not with a cry, but with a silence that startles the midwife. A silence that feels like storm clouds gathering behind infant eyes. The world into which you arrive is not gentle. It is not warm. It does not wait for you to grow up before testing your strength. It hurls you into the fire before you even understand what heat is. Your village is small. Miyamoto, tucked into the rugged hills of Harima province. The houses here are humble, the people tougher than leather, their backs bent by work and war alike. Your family is poor, not the poetic kind of poor, but the sort where rice is rationed and shoes are a luxury. You are swaddled in scratchy cloth, perhaps too thin for the cold, laid in a straw mat instead of a cradle. But you are not alone. There is a presence beside you, towering, unyielding. Your father, Shinmen Munisai. He is a swordsman, not the kind who trains nobles in refined dojo halls with polished bamboo sticks, but the kind who has tasted blood and sweat and fear, and has learned to keep standing when others fall. He is not warm. He is not kind. He is not cruel either. He is sharp. Everything about him feels like a blade. His stare, his voice, his expectations. He teaches you early that softness is dangerous. That kindness is a luxury warriors cannot afford. Love, in your household, does not arrive as hugs or lullabies. It arrives as bruises, as discipline, as a wooden sword placed in your toddler hands, followed by the order, hold it higher. And so, you hold it. There is no gentle childhood. For you, no songs at bedtime, no carefree laughter in the fields. While other children chase frogs or try to balance buckets of water, you are learning how to strike, how to breathe between blows, how to anticipate movement even before it happens. It may sound cruel, it may sound cold, but here, in this place and time, love sometimes looks like preparing a child to survive. And you do more than survive. There is something different in you, even from those earliest days. A wildness, not the kind that throws tantrums, but the kind that watches everything, that waits, that learns in silence. You do not obey out of fear. You do not submit out of duty. You adapt, you absorb, you sharpen, like steel against stone. The people in the village begin to talk, quietly at first. They notice how you never cry, how you get back up after every fall, how you watch the clouds, the birds, the way wind moves leaves, always watching, always calculating. You become the boy with the storm behind his eyes. And, while others sleep peacefully beneath their straw roofs, you lie awake, listening, thinking, dreaming, not of comfort, not of fame, but of movement, of form, of power. Your dreams are made of strikes and footwork, of breath and balance, of shadow and silence. Your body grows lean, fast. Your mind grows faster. By the time most boys are figuring out how to impress girls or carve wooden toys, you are learning how to dismantle an opponent's stance with one shift of your foot, how to read fear before a sword is drawn, how to strike without warning and without mercy. You begin to understand something that others never do. A sword is not just a weapon, it is a question, and every battle is a conversation. Will you hesitate? Will you fall? Will you be distracted by pride, by fear, by anger? You, Musashi, will answer no. Even as a child, you begin to see that survival in this world demands more than strength. It demands clarity, purpose, discipline that cuts deeper than any blade. And yet, you are still a child. There are moments when your hands tremble, when the sword feels too heavy, when your father's voice slices into your heart more sharply than any weapon could. But you never let it show, because deep down, you know this. Path is not just being forced on you. You are choosing it. You were born for it. And as the sun rises once more over the mountains of Harima, you step barefoot into the dirt, grip the wooden sword in your palm, and face your father's shadow. The first chapter of your legend begins not with a war cry, not with a victory, but with a quiet, steady breath. Because before you become a master of the sword, you must first master yourself. The days in your village are simple, but not easy. The mornings come early, carved from mist and the sound of roosters. The air is cold, the ground harder than your bedding. But you rise without protest. You stretch your limbs like an animal waking from slumber. Your feet are bare, your clothes threadbare, your wooden sword tucked beneath your mat like a secret. By now, you move through routines like water finding its path. You sweep the yard with rhythmic focus. You haul buckets from the stream, arms aching yet steady. You eat in silence, listening to your father's breath, measuring his mood with your eyes. Every moment in your house is training, even when no one speaks. Sometimes the village children watch you from afar, whispering. They call you names, strange, wild, unsmiling. But they do not dare approach. Not after what happened last summer, when one boy shoved you and laughed, and you knocked him flat with a single motion. You didn't strike out of anger. You struck because the angle was there. The motion was available. It was instinct. And instincts for you are already sharper than most men's reason. Your father notices, of course. He rarely praises you, but he no longer corrects your grip. He no longer slows his pace when sparring. He watches, waiting for you to fall. And when you don't, something changes in his gaze. Still hard, still distant. But now, there's a flicker of something else. Perhaps not affection. Perhaps recognition. At night, when the world quiets and even the insects hush beneath the weight of the stars, you lie awake on your mat. Your eyes trace the beams of the roof above you, and you wonder what lies beyond, the hills, beyond the valleys. You don't dream of riches. You don't imagine castles. You dream of movement, of jewels beneath mountain skies, of walking until your feet are raw and your soul has burned clean. That future feels closer than you expect, because soon everything will change. The year is now 1597. You are 13, and history is already sharpening its pen. A traveling samurai arrives in your village. His name is Arima Kihei. He is not a man, of humility. He arrives with silk at his waist, metal at his side, and a voice loud enough to wake the trees. He speaks of honor, of technique, of lineage. He boasts to the villagers, offers demonstrations, laughs loudly, drinks more loudly. He does not notice you at first. Why would he? To him, you are a boy, dirty, poor, quiet. But you watch him closely, his stance, his breathing, the subtle twitch of his fingers near the hilt. You are not impressed, and so you do something unthinkable. You challenge him. The villagers gasp. Murmurs rise like a wind through dry grass. Some are frightened, some are eager. Your father says nothing. Arima laughs, then scowls. You do not flinch. The day of the duel arrives. You wear your roughest clothes, because they are the only clothes you have. Your wooden sword, still marked with chips and cracks, rests light in your grip. The villagers form a wide circle around the clearing. Chickens cluck nervously at the edge of the field. The sun hangs heavy overhead, as if waiting to bear witness. Arima stands across from you, confident, relaxed. His hand rests on his real blade. You bow. Then, without warning, you move. Fast, brutal, precise. You do not wait for ceremony. You do not perform a flourish. You launch yourself forward like a force of nature. Arima barely has time to draw before you strike. Your wooden sword crashes into his shoulder, then his ribs, then his temple. He falls, groaning, bleeding, humiliated. The silence is louder than any cheer. You have won. At 13, barefoot and half-starved, you have defeated a grown samurai, and something deep inside you settles into place. It is not pride, not joy. It is clarity. This is your path. Not farming, not servitude, not comfort. You were born to fight, to move, to evolve. And this victory is only the first drop in a sea of storms yet to come. After the duel, your father says nothing. He only glances at you, then turns away. But something unspoken passes between you. He has forged a blade that no longer bends to his hand. You spend one last night in your village. Your mat feels harder than usual. The ceiling beams seem narrower. You feel like a hawk in a cage built for sparrows. By dawn, you are gone. No tearful farewells, no blessings, no packed meals, only your sword, a worn cloak, and the road stretching before you like an unanswered question. You are now a ronin, a masterless samurai, a boy with no roof, no rank, no safety net, but also no chains. As your feet touch unfamiliar paths and the hills of your childhood vanish behind, you feel something blooming in your chest. It is not fear, it is not even excitement, it is purpose. Your story has only just begun. The road stretches ahead, long and silent. You walk without looking back. There is no home waiting for your return. No familiar faces lingering behind. Only the wind at your back, and the endless unknown unraveling in front of you like a scroll still unwritten. You are 15. You have no master, no home, no destination, but you have a sword, and more importantly, you have something rare. The refusal to live anyone else's life but your own. The world sees Ronin like you as dangerous, unmoored, unpredictable. In the eyes of society, a man without a lord is like a blade without a sheath. Too sharp, too wild, too free. But freedom is your only companion now. Your first nights are spent beneath trees. Your pillow is a bundle of dry leaves. Your meals, when they come, are rice crusts from kind old women, or whatever wild greens you can chew without gagging. You don't complain, you observe. The forest becomes your first true dojo. The rustle of branches your instructor. The flow of rivers your sparring partner. You listen to everything. The crack of twigs, the hush of wind, the rhythm of footsteps, yours and others. The natural world teaches you lessons no man ever did. And with every step you take away from Miyamoto village, the boy you were begins to dissolve like ink in water. The boy with muddy feet and bruises under his sleeves is vanishing. In his place, something sharper begins to form, something quieter, something faster. The towns you pass through are wary. Strangers are unwelcome, especially young men with calloused hands and the eyes of wolves. Sometimes you get chased out, sometimes ignored, sometimes challenged, but always you learn. You start visiting local dojos, not to join, never to belong, but to test, to evolve. You watch the students spar. You challenge the strongest. You study every flaw in their form, every moment their guard drops, every breath that gives away intent. You do not fight for money. You do not fight for fame. You fight to become better. And soon, word begins to spread. There is a young Ronin wandering the provinces. He does not bow. He does not boast. He carries no fine armor, no banners, no name to hide behind. But he wins, again and again, with wood or steel, with precision, with fury, with silence. They begin to whisper your name, Musashi. Some say you fight like a demon. Others say you fight like you're possessed by some ancient spirit of war. But the truth is simpler. You fight like a man who refuses to die until he understands what it truly means to live. And the blade in your hand. It is no longer a tool. It is no longer just an extension of your body. It is a question. A question you ask every time you step onto the field. Who are you? And who will you become? Each duel is an answer, partial, imperfect, but honest. You sleep in barns, in ditches, on temple steps. You eat stolen radishes. You barter favors for rice. Once, you survive an entire week on nothing but fish bones and stale tea leaves. It is not glorious. It is not heroic. But it is real. You start carrying 2 swords, now. A katana and a wakizashi. One long, one short. You don't yet know why, only that your hands crave balance, that something inside you seeks duality. People notice. They scoff. They mutter. Who is this scruffy teenager with wild hair and 2 blades? But they stop laughing when the duels begin, because when you fight, you don't move like a boy. You move like lightning deciding where to strike. There is no flourish, no wasted motion, only function, only results. And when the fight ends, you don't gloat. You don't pose. You nod. You leave. Sometimes bleeding, sometimes limping. Always learning. Your body toughens. Your instincts sharpen. Your mind begins to change. You no longer see the world as a place of threats or rewards. You see it as a series of openings, moments waiting to be seized or avoided, dangers waiting to be studied or dismantled. You learn that fear reveals itself in the hands, in the breath, in the hesitation before action. You learn that pride makes people predictable, and predictable opponents are already defeated. By the time you are 17, you are no longer a mystery to yourself. You are still growing, still flawed. But now you understand what your sword is really doing. It is not just cutting flesh, it is carving away your weakness, your doubt, your need for approval. Each duel is not just a contest, it is a conversation between who you were and who you must become. The road is long, the nights are cold, but with each passing mile, you are less alone because you are walking beside someone, the future version of yourself, and he is watching every move you make. You do not dress like a warrior. Your clothes are worn thin from rain and sun, your sleeves are uneven, your sash frayed, your sandals held together by sheer stubbornness. Your hair is untamed, a nest of black threads blown by wind and sleep. Your smell, well, let's just say rivers have become your occasional bathhouse, and even then, only when you must. You do not look like a samurai, and that is your greatest weapon. The world expects warriors to arrive clean and polished, to wear their discipline like lacquered armor, but you, Musashi, you arrive like a storm cloud dragged in by accident, and no one sees the lightning inside you until it's too late. In town after town, you walk into dojos like a phantom. You do not speak much. You watch, you wait, and then you challenge. Some laugh, some sneer. Some agree just to humble the wandering boy who looks like he lost a bet with the forest. But when the duel begins, something happens. You move, fast, direct, brutally simple. There is no dancing, no flourish. You close the distance like a predator that has been studying prey for weeks. One strike, or maybe two, and it's done. The wooden floor echoes with your opponent's fall. His students stare. His master stares. You nod, offer no insult, and turn to leave. Another lesson delivered. Another weakness exposed. Soon, whispers follow you. Not just rumors, but fear. They say you don't fight to win points. You fight to survive. They say you don't care about honor, only results. But that isn't true. You do care about honor, just not the kind written in scrolls or spoken in poems. You believe in a different kind of honor, the kind measured in clarity, in presence, in truth, the kind that doesn't lie to the self, the kind that doesn't wear masks or hide behind traditions. The world begins to notice you, but the world doesn't know what to do with you. You're not a knight. You're not a court-trained samurai. You don't belong to a school, a clan, a code. You are something older, wilder, like the mountain wolves who once roamed these hills long before roads were carved. And like them, you're feared not because you howl, but because you strike when no one expects it. Sometimes you fight with steel, sometimes with wood. Once, in a quiet village, you defeat a man using nothing but a bamboo stick you found leaning against a porch. Another time, you use a broken boat oar, not because you were making a point, but because it was there. And that's enough, because it was never about the weapon. It's about the one who wields it. And you, Musashi, are becoming something terrifying, not because of what's in your hand, but because of what's in your mind. You begin to notice things in battle that others never see. A shift in breathing, the curl of a finger before a strike, the rhythm between steps, the flash of doubt in a man's eyes, when he realizes you are not what he expected. You don't fight opponents, you fight patterns, and patterns, once recognized, can be broken. That is your gift. That is your curse. Because the better you become, the more you see, and the more you see, the lonelier the path becomes. In inns, people lower their voices when you walk in. In the streets, children stare, their mothers pull them close. Some men nod in respect, others look away. You sleep less, you think more. Every duel ends quicker. The blade feels lighter, the tension duller. Victory is no longer thrilling. It is expected, like breathing. And while others sharpen their swords, you are sharpening your awareness. You begin to question everything. Why do men fight the way they do? Why do schools teach repetition instead of adaptation? Why does everyone move in circles? Techniques passed down like heirlooms, never questioned. You refuse that. You are not a reflection of your master. You are your own forge. Each duel, each scar, each step on the road shapes you into a weapon not made by tradition, but by truth. And slowly, people begin to call you something else. Not just Ronin, not just swordsman, but something harder to define. A force, a storm, a ghost in ragged robes, who moves with purpose no one else understands, and you just keep walking, because your journey isn't about being understood, it's about understanding. It begins not with inspiration, but with frustration. You are winning too easily now. Not because your opponents are weak, but because their minds are predictable. They come at you with refined stances and polished steel. They wear the crests of famous schools, the approval of powerful lords. But when they move, you already know what they will do. Their techniques are borrowed, memorized, taught in sequences passed down like bedtime stories. Yours are born of silence, pain, hunger, and dust. You begin to notice something. Every swordsman you face is limited by the weapon in his hand. They strike in arcs that suit one sword. They defend in rhythms designed for singular precision. Even the best among them are bound by the architecture of tradition. But you, Musashi, have never lived by rules. You have never accepted the boundaries placed before you. And so you begin to question something most warriors would never dare. Why must there be only one sword? You already carry two. A long blade, the katana. A shorter blade, the wakizashi. You already carry two. A long blade, the katana. A shorter blade, the wakizashi. Every samurai does. The daisho is a symbol of status. But for you, it becomes a possibility. One blade for reach, one for control, one to strike, one to deceive. A dance of duality. At first, your attempts are clumsy. You swing too wide. Your arms tangle. You nearly cut yourself once, spinning too fast on wet grass. You stumble. You fail. But you do not stop. You retreat deeper into the woods, where no one can see you fall, where no one can laugh. You train in shadows, striking tree trunks until they splinter, carving paths through bamboo as though clearing your own way through tradition. One hand deflects, the other strikes, right, left, right, a new rhythm, a new identity. In the stillness of forests and the loneliness of forgotten roads, your body begins to understand what your mind has already accepted. Two swords are not a burden. They are an answer. Most warriors would scoff. Most would cling to what they know. But you're not interested in comfort. You're interested in truth. And the truth is this: the world is not symmetrical. So why should your fighting be? As your control sharpens, so does your reputation. Rumors stretch like smoke from village to village. They say there is a swordsman who fights with both hands like twin flames. They say he does not follow forms. He does not bow. He does not lose. You become legend before you even understand it. One afternoon, as you're passing through a mountain pass, a boy no older than 10 runs up to you. His eyes are wide with fear and admiration. He asks, "Is it true you killed a man with two swords at once?" You look at him, not with pride, but with quiet confusion. Because to you, the story is never about the kill. It's about the question that led you there, the path. You nod once. The boy bows and runs. You do not chase fame, but it follows you, like your shadow stretched out beneath the sun. The duels become different now. When you walk into towns, some swordsmen flee, others kneel, a few still challenge. The smart ones realize quickly. They are not fighting a man. They are fighting momentum, evolution, inevitability. The way you move, fluid, unpredictable, breaks their patterns. Your right hand becomes a hurricane, your left, a ghost. They expect a fight. What they get is a storm. And still, you refine. You begin using everyday objects in training. A pot lid, a broom handle, a stick of firewood. You teach your mind that anything can become a weapon if the purpose behind it is sharp enough. You abandon the comfort of rules. And what remains is something terrifyingly pure. Adaptation. This is your greatest advantage. This is what separates you from every swordsman who ever polished his blade under a lantern while reciting the codes of his master. You are not here to memorize. You are here to become. And every time you raise both hands, one high, one low, you are declaring war not on an opponent, but on everything that tried to shape you into someone else. Two hands, one purpose. Victory. Not for the sake of glory, not for the crowd, but because mastery demands it. The road leads you, at last, to Kyoto, not the Kyoto of legends with cherry blossoms falling gently over lovers' sighs, not the Kyoto of poetry and tea ceremonies. No, this Kyoto is crowded, tense, bristling with power and expectation. It is a city of rules and whispers, of long shadows and longer memories. It is here that you find your next mountain to climb. The Yoshioka School. They are not merely a dojo. They are an institution. Prestigious, wealthy, rooted in generations of tradition. Their name carries the weight of a sword drawn across decades. Their students walk with pride. Their masters speak with finality. And yet you, scruffy, road-worn, unsponsored, Walk into their territory without hesitation, because you are not looking for fame. You are looking for resistance, the kind that will sharpen you further. You challenge. Their leader, Seijuro Yoshioka, the request alone causes a stir. He is not just a teacher, he is a figurehead, a symbol. The idea that a wandering ronin could dare speak his name with challenge is unthinkable. But he accepts. How could he not? Honor demands it. Ego ensures it. The duel is set. Kyoto holds its breath. They expect you to be crushed, humiliated, exposed. Instead, when the moment comes, you strike first. Hard, decisive. Seijuro falls. Not with grace, not with poetic resolve. He falls like a tree that never saw the axe. The city erupts, not with applause, but with silence. The kind of silence that comes after a thunderclap. The kind that makes people rethink what they know about the world. You do not stay for celebration. You disappear into the city's veins, the alleys and rooftops, the old paths carved between forgotten shrines. You move like water, ungraspable, untouchable. But the Yoshioka are not finished. You knew they wouldn't be. Defeating Seijuro was never going to be the end. It was a spark, and you have just set fire to something sacred. They sent his brother next, Denshichiro. Where Seijuro was calm, Denshichiro is rage. Where Seijuro represented discipline, Denshichiro is vengeance dressed in armor. He does not come to preserve honor. He comes to erase you. The duel is brutal, not elegant, not poetic. You meet in the dirt, and by the time the dust settles, Denshichiro is bleeding into it. Two brothers, two defeats. The Yoshioka are crumbling, but they have one more move. They set a trap. They send the youngest, Matashichiro, to challenge you. Still a boy, a symbol of continuity, but around him they gather hidden swordsmen, an ambush, a swarm disguised as a duel. They think they are clever, but you are already waiting. You arrive early. You strike first. You cut through their deception as easily as you cut through their formation. You do not fight for balance. You fight like lightning tearing through a forest. By the time they realize the storm has come, it is already over. And just like that, the Yoshioka school falls, not with banners lowered, but in shame. And you vanish, not to escape, but because you know this city has given you what you came for. Not approval, not a title, but proof. Proof that you are evolving faster than anyone else, that your mind, your instincts, your will are becoming something terrifying to the old world. You walk out of Kyoto not as a man seeking recognition, but as a force no school, no name, no lineage can contain. You are not their enemy. You are their future, and it frightens them more than any sword ever could. The city behind you whispers your name like a ghost. The alleys of Kyoto no longer echo with the pride of the Yoshioka school. Their banners have been taken down. Their training halls, once filled with disciplined footsteps and loud kiais, now sit in silence, the wooden floors still stained with memories of humiliation. You do not look back. There is nothing for you in their ashes. You don't seek their apology. You don't care for revenge. You didn't dismantle the Yoshioka out of hatred. You did it because they stood between you and the next step. They were a stone in the river, and rivers do not stop. They flow, but still, what you did lingers. There's something different in the way people watch you now. It's not just respect, it's unease. You're no longer the young Ronin with potential. You're something else entirely. You've destroyed a legacy. You've taken something deeply rooted and snapped it in half like dry bamboo, and the world doesn't know how to hold you anymore. They call you a demon. They call you a ghost. They call you a storm in human form. But what they never call you is lost. Because you, Musashi, are more focused than ever. You are forging something invisible, something even you don't fully understand. A way, a rhythm, a path that cannot be traced on maps or in scrolls, and it requires you to keep moving. So you do. You cross rivers, you walk through forests, You follow the wind, trusting it more than any human advice. At inns, you keep to yourself. At temples, you meditate without pretending to be devout. When asked who you serve, you smile faintly and say, "I serve the lesson." And the lesson, you know, always comes with pain. Along the road, challenges keep finding you. Young swordsmen eager to test themselves, old masters hoping to reclaim forgotten glories, hired hands sent by those who want to tame you or remove you altogether. They come at you with polished armor, perfect technique, and names that matter to someone, but not to you. You don't memorize their stances. You feel them. You read their breathing, their doubts, their regrets. You strike when the future opens its mouth, and you are gone before it closes again. You become faster, not just in motion, but in mind. You begin to notice that sometimes the fight is already over before it begins. You can see it in their eyes, the moment they realize they cannot beat you, the moment their certainty crumbles. And it isn't your sword that breaks them. It's your silence, your confidence, your presence. You are not invincible. You bleed. You tire. You feel hunger and thirst and bone-deep loneliness. But when the blade is drawn, you do not hesitate. And that, more than strength, is what makes you unstoppable. There's a moment one night when you find yourself by a riverbank, watching the moon ripple in the water. You catch your reflection, and for a heartbeat, you don't recognize the man staring back. He is too still, too calm. He looks like someone who has already died and come back with no fear left. You blink, and he is you. You are 20 now, not old, but not a boy either. You've faced more blades than birthdays. You've walked through more provinces than you can name. You've fought in fields, on bridges, in temple courtyards, in muddy alleys, and once, strangely enough, on the deck of a drifting barge. And you keep winning. People start to avoid you, start to avoid. Dojos close their doors when they hear your name. Students suddenly find excuses to train elsewhere. Masters bow and say, "Not today, perhaps another time." You are becoming untouchable, and it doesn't feel like glory. It feels like glass, walls. No one wants to fight you. No one wants to train you. No one dares teach you, because no one believes they have anything left to give you. You are becoming an island, and the silence begins to grow louder than the applause. You wander into a village one morning and find children play fighting with sticks. One of them, barefoot and wild-eyed, shouts, "I'm Musashi," and swings at his friend with dramatic flair. The other kid laughs and pretends to fall. You watch, you don't smile, because something in you tightens. That boy is imitating a name, not understanding the cost behind it. He sees the victories, the myth. He doesn't see the cold mornings, the empty bowls, the nights sleeping under trees while wolves howl nearby. The ache in your back that hasn't gone away in months. The bruises that never fully heal. He doesn't see the loneliness. Because who wants to follow a path that leads to silence? But you chose this, didn't you? You told yourself from the beginning that you would not belong to any lord, any master, any pattern. And now that you've become the embodiment of that ideal, why does it feel so hollow? You sit beneath a tree that night, sharpening your blade by moonlight, but your thoughts drift towards something else. What if the sword isn't the answer anymore? What if it never was? You try to shake the thought, but it lingers. A whisper beneath the roar of all your victories. You begin to wonder if you're chasing something that can never be caught. If mastery is a horizon, always visible, always distant, never reachable. And if so, what happens when the road runs out? You walk more slowly now. You rest more often, not because your body fails, but because your soul is searching for something it cannot name. The jewels still come, but they are less frequent. You begin refusing some. You tell a young challenger once, "Come back in 5 years. You'll be worth more to yourself then." He looks at you like you've just offered him a riddle. But it wasn't a riddle. It was the truth. Because the more you grow, the more you realize there is nothing glorious about breaking people. Not when you know how easy it is. You start listening more, watching more. You observe monks sweeping temple courtyards with reverence, farmers planting rice with rhythm and patience, an old woman boiling tea with more grace than any duel you've seen. And something stirs inside you. Something gentle, not weak, not soft, but aware. You begin to understand that the sword was never meant to define your life. It was meant to refine it. And now that it has, you must decide what comes next. You have heard the name whispered like a legend, passed from lips too cautious to speak it loudly. Sasaki Kojiro. Some say he moves like a shadow. Others say his blade sings like the wings of a bird in flight. His sword, they say, is absurdly long, unwieldy to common hands. But to him, it dances like silk. They call his signature strike the Tsubame Gaishi, the swallow reversal. A technique said to cut down a bird mid-air, faster than the eye, too elegant to be real, too deadly to be myth. And now, Kojiro is no longer a rumor on the wind. He is a destination. For the first time in years, your feet know where they are going. You do not rush toward him. That is not your way. You move slowly, patiently, feeling the pull not as excitement, but as inevitability. A storm does not race to its target. It gathers, and when the time is right, it strikes. You are no longer the boy who fought with a stick and slept beneath trees. You are no longer even the young man who tore through dojos like fire. You are something else now. Quieter, deeper, harder to define. You have tasted the emptiness of victory and the cold solitude that follows it. You have begun to understand that the sword, no matter how sharp, is not the end of the journey, but only its reflection. And yet, when the name Kojiro reaches your ears, something ancient stirs within you. Not rivalry, not vengeance, but recognition. He is not your enemy. He is the mirror the world has prepared for you. When two forces grow strong enough, the universe arranges for them to meet, not to destroy each other, but to reveal each other. And so you walk, across valleys, through towns, along coastal cliffs where gulls scream into the salt wind. People offer you beds, meals, warnings. Some tell you not to go. Some tell you Kojiro is ruthless. Others say he is a genius, a swordsman of grace, of beauty, of poise, a man who fights as if painting in the air. You say nothing because you are not going to test him. You are going to understand him. You arrive at the appointed place, a coastal region where the waves crash endlessly against the rocks. A messenger delivers the terms. The duel will take place on Ganryujima, a small island just offshore. The sun will be high. The tide will be calm. It is set. But you know something no one else does. You will not arrive on time. You will not arrive as expected. Because this fight is not just about steel. It is about rhythm. It is about the mind. And before a sword ever moves, you must already have entered your opponent's thoughts. On the morning of the duel, you carve a wooden sword from an oar as the boat rows slowly toward the island. The others around you are tense, watching the shore draw nearer, watching for signs of Kojiro's approach. You remain still, focused. Your hands work with the oar, shaping it, sensing it, trusting its grain. It is crude, heavy, imperfect, but it is yours, and it is all you need. When you finally step onto the beach, Kojiro is already waiting, radiant in dark robes, his long sword gleaming like moonlight made solid. His eyes flash, annoyed. He accuses you of disrespect, for being late, for arriving with a boat oar instead of a sword. But beneath the anger, you see what you came for. Focus, precision, calm fury. He is everything they said he would be. And you feel no hatred, no fear, only readiness. He draws his sword with a flourish, a sweeping arc like a crane unfolding its wings. And you move. The first strike is not graceful. It is not beautiful. It is not what stories will call poetic. It is fast, direct, final. Your wooden sword crashes into his skull before his blade completes its arc. There is no second strike. He falls, and silence blooms like blood in water. The witnesses say nothing. The waves go on crashing. Somewhere, a gull cries. You lower your oar. Your breath is even. You feel no pride, no triumph. Only sorrow. You have won. But what have you gained? Another silence. Another empty space where once there was possibility. You look down at Kojiro, not with contempt, but with mourning. Because something beautiful just ended. And you were the one who ended it. You walk away alone, your sandals biting into the sand, your back to the sea, your heart heavier than your sword arm has ever been. After Ganryujima, the world shifts. Your name spreads farther than ever before, reaching the ears of lords, merchants, monks, poets. Some speak it with awe, others with fear, all with certainty. You are no longer a swordsman. You are a symbol. You are the one who cannot be defeated. And yet, inside you, the silence has grown. Not the peaceful kind, the hollow kind, the echo of questions with no answer. You walk through towns where people bow too deeply, eyes filled with reverence you do not want. You sleep in rooms offered freely, but you miss the discomfort of roots under your spine, the howl of wind through branches. You hear children speak your name like it's a charm. You see young men mimic your stance, trying to become you. And you wonder, who are they really trying to be? The man who cannot lose, or the man who no longer knows what it means to win? Your steps slow. You stop accepting challenges, not because you cannot win, but because winning no longer feels like a destination. It feels like a cage. Every duel now feels like déjà vu, the same fear in their eyes, the same sharp intake of breath, the same moment of realization, when they understand you're not here to dance, or posture, or play. You are here to end it. And so they fall. Again and again. And again, you feel nothing. You begin to wonder, what lies beyond the edge of the sword? What waits for a man who has fought every fight? If mastery is a mountain, then what happens when you reach its peak and find no view at all? You pass through an old temple one evening and watch a monk sweep fallen leaves into perfect spirals. His movements are slow, deliberate, beautiful, in their quiet repetition. You watch for nearly an hour, and he never looks up, never speaks, never falters. You realize in that moment that what he is doing is the same as what you've been seeking. Precision, stillness, clarity, but without violence, without conquest, without ego, and it shakes something loose inside you. That night, as you lie awake staring at the rafters of a borrowed room, you understand. The sword is not the final form. It was always meant to be a doorway. And now, standing at the threshold, you see what lies beyond. A life of creation, of insight, of calm. But to enter, you must first lay down the very thing that brought you here. You must let go of victory, of the need to prove, of the hunger to cut. It is terrifying, but it is time. You rise before dawn, wrap your sword in cloth, and walk without direction, following the sound of birdsong, the scent of wood smoke, the softness of morning fog. You do not know exactly where you are going, only that it is not toward another duel. It is toward yourself, toward silence, not as an absence, but as a presence more powerful than any opponent you've ever faced. You retreat from the road, not with shame or defeat, but with quiet intention. The path of the sword has taken you far, through fields of honor, across rivers of pain, into temples of silence. But now, it is time to step off that road, not to stop moving, but to move differently, You find a small village nestled among trees that whisper with the wind. It is not famous. There are no banners, no duels, no challenges waiting for you here. And that is why you stay. The villagers know who you are. They whisper your name in the market, point gently when they think you aren't looking. But they do not ask you to prove yourself. They do not ask you to teach. They only offer you peace and a place to sit. You begin to draw. At first, it is nothing more than idle movements. Lines on paper, circles, shadows. You use charcoal, then ink, then brush. Your hand, once used only for cutting, learns to glide instead. Your fingers, once clenched around a hilt, learn to breathe. You draw mountains, trees, rivers, faces, hands, blades. You draw silence. And in that silence, you begin to understand something deeper than any technique. The sword is fast, but the brush is eternal. The sword ends moments, but the brush preserves them. Soon, you begin to paint on anything you can find. Scraps of wood, the backs of old scrolls, a fan gifted by a merchant's wife. You paint because it stills your heart, because it gives form to thoughts too gentle for steel. Then comes calligraphy. You had seen monks do it before, sitting in temples, robes tucked beneath them, tracing characters like they were summoning spirits. Now you try. Your strokes are uneven, awkward, but then something clicks. The same awareness you once used to sense an opponent's breath now guides your hand. You begin to feel the energy in each stroke, the space between lines, the rhythm of black and white. One morning, as mist curls over the fields like soft ribbon, you take up a brush and write a single word. Mu. Nothingness. It does not feel empty. It feels true. You begin to study other arts, sculpture, garden design, even poetry. You do not speak of your past. You let it settle into your bones like old weather. The villagers begin to speak to you not as Musashi the swordsman, but as Shinmen, the quiet one, the thoughtful one. Sometimes children bring you paper and ask you to draw for them. You do, gently, slowly. You tell them about the wind, the trees, the sound of snow falling before it lands. You do not tell them about the men who screamed, the blood that steamed on cold earth, the weight of steel through flesh. That part of you is still there, but it no longer leads. You walk through forests with your hands behind your back, watching the way the branches reach for light. You sit by rivers and listen to stones speak beneath the current. You stop measuring time by seasons of combat and begin to measure it by the way moonlight shifts on your wall. Your sword is not forgotten. It hangs nearby, wrapped in cloth, a silent witness to your new life. But now, your brush moves faster than your blade ever did, because it is no longer about the fight. It is about what remains when the fight is over. Years pass. You are no longer followed by rumors. No one is chasing you. No one is testing you. The name Musashi still carries weight, but it is no longer loud. It drifts on the air like incense, familiar, fragrant, fading. You move to a cave in the hills of Kumamoto, near a quiet temple. Regando. The cave is narrow and dark, cold in the mornings, damp after rain. But it is yours. Its silence wraps around you like an old friend. No walls, no doors, no servants, just stone, breath, and thought. You bring with you only a few things: a mat, ink, paper, a sword untouched, and a mind no longer clouded by ambition. You wake with the sun, not because you must, but because your body has learned to rise with the light. You stretch, you boil water for tea, you sit, sometimes for hours, sometimes for moments that feel like forever. And then you write, not letters, not memoirs, a book, but not just a book, a distillation of everything you've seen, learned, endured, and transformed. You call it the Book of Five Rings, Go-Rin no Sho. Not a manual of swordsmanship alone, but a philosophy of existence wrapped in the language of combat. 5 scrolls, 5 elements: earth, water, fire, wind, void. Earth is grounding. It teaches presence. Water is adaptability. It shows how to shift. Fire is intensity. It burns through illusion. Wind is knowledge. It observes the methods of others. Void is nothingness, pure clarity. That which cannot be named, only known. You write without flourish, without ego. Your words are direct, measured, sharp. They are like your strikes once were, simple but precise. You do not seek to impress. You seek to leave behind something that matters, not glory, but guidance. Your students visit you sometimes. Quiet young men who sit cross-legged, asking questions they barely understand. You do not give them answers. You give them riddles. You point to the trees and ask them what moves, the wind or the branch. They frown. You smile. Because you know, the truth cannot be handed over. It must be earned. Some days, you sit outside the cave and watch clouds drift. You remember duels that lasted seconds, but changed the shape of your soul. You remember hunger, laughter, the sting of rain on bare skin. You remember Kojiro, but you do not dwell. Your breath is steady now. Your path is no longer forward, nor back. It is inward. At night, the wind moans through the cave mouth like an old flute. You sleep lightly, not out of fear, but out of habit. You dream not of blood, but of brushstrokes. And each morning the cave is still there, unchanged, like your mind, like your purpose. You are no longer chasing anything. You are becoming what you were always meant to be. Not a swordsman, not a wanderer, not even a master, but a man, at peace with all he has ever been. The cave grows colder with each season, but your mind grows clearer. Day by day, the weight of memory lifts, and what remains is essence, no longer cluttered by noise or names, but organized like a scroll tightly wound around a core truth. You rise each morning with less urgency. There is no dual waiting, no student expecting a lesson. There is only you, the inkstone, and the quiet hush of thought as it arrives gently, like mist rising off the valley floor. Your hands, once calloused by the blade, now feel most natural holding a brush. You dip the tip into black ink and write what you know, not just about combat, but about rhythm, timing, clarity, presence. You do not waste words. You do not explain what the reader must discover. You write as you fought, with precision, with stillness before motion, with no attachment to outcome. You divide your wisdom into 5 scrolls. The Earth Scroll speaks first. It is your foundation. The importance of knowing the ground beneath your feet, of knowing your stance, not just in combat, but in life. You teach that structure is not restriction, but awareness. That posture reveals intention, that the body reflects the state of the mind. Then comes the Water Scroll. Here you teach adaptability. Water does not resist. It shapes itself to its container. It flows, bends, reflects, and yet, over time, it cuts through stone. You explain how a warrior must not be rigid, how movement should be like water meeting water. This scroll is not about power. It is about response. The Fire Scroll follows, burning with intensity. It is not about fury, but clarity in chaos. Fire knows how to consume what no longer serves. Here you write about strategy, about the psychology of combat, about the importance of understanding the enemy's mind as deeply as your own. Fire teaches awareness in the midst of movement. Then, the Wind Scroll. This is not about breeze or softness. It is about observation. You speak of the schools of swordsmanship you have encountered, dissecting their forms and flaws. But you do not mock them. You examine them with respect, with curiosity. You do not seek to dominate. You seek to understand, to see their patterns and where those patterns blind them. And finally, the void, the most difficult to write, the one that can never be written in full. The void is that which cannot be grasped, the silence between movements, the space between thoughts, the awareness that is not attached to form or shape. You write that this is the highest level of mastery, not to know everything, but to know nothing fully, to be so present that there is no room for self, no division between blade, body, and breath. It takes weeks to complete the scrolls. Maybe months. You do not count. The sun rises, the ink dries, and your heart feels lighter with each finished page. You do not imagine readers. You do not hope for fame. You write only for the few who may come, someday, seeking not technique, but truth. The Book of Five Rings is not a weapon. It is a mirror you place gently into the world, so that others might see themselves more clearly. When it is done, you place the scrolls in a small chest. You touch the lid with reverence, not pride. You do not read them again. You do not need to. The words are already inside you, and soon it will be time to leave them behind. The wind through the cave is sharper now. The trees outside have shed their leaves. Your breath curls in the air like the ghosts of old conversations, the ones you never needed to speak aloud. Your body is slower. The aches last longer. But there is no fear in the changes, only awareness. You begin to feel something you've never known on the battlefield. Stillness that asks for nothing in return. One morning, you know it is time. You rise early, wash your face with cold water from a nearby spring, dress slowly. You take your sword, not to fight, not to wield, but to sit with. You walk outside, not far, just to the edge of the cliff where the valley opens like a bowl carved by centuries of wind and rain. You sit, cross-legged, spine tall. The sword rests beside you, sheathed, the same posture you once took before a duel. But now, there is no opponent, only the sky, only the silence, only the self. Your breath deepens, your eyes soften. You are not meditating, you are not preparing, you are simply being. The cold does not bite, the silence does not press, time does not move, and neither do you. In this moment, there is nothing to defend, no name to uphold, no legacy to preserve. The world will carry those things for you. You have already let go. You do not fear what comes next, because you have already walked through death 1,000 times. In the eyes of your enemies, in the shadows of your own doubts, in the moments after each victory when silence came and asked, "Is this all?" Now you know. This is all, and it is enough. Your final breath is not dramatic. It is not labored. It is not whispered into the wind like a farewell. It is steady, like the last stroke of a brush on paper, like the closing of a gate that leads not to an ending, but to the place beyond endings. The wind rises. The valley holds its silence. The cave waits, still and unchanging. You are gone, but your presence remains. In the scrolls, in the trees, in the way the morning light slips across the stones, and in the hearts of those who will one day walk the path you cleared, not to become you, but to discover themselves. Time moves on, as it always does. The cave remains, carved into the hillside like a closed eye in deep meditation. The villagers nearby speak of the man who once lived there, the quiet one, the one who painted tigers with gentle hands and once held a sword like a whisper. Some say he was more than a warrior. Others say he was less. But all agree he was something rare. Your students return from time to time, older now, changed by life. They stand at the cave mouth with silence in their throats, remembering your words. Not the lessons barked on training grounds, but the ones between the words. The pauses. The way you sipped tea as if tasting the rhythm of the moment. The way you listened more than you spoke. The way your presence demanded truth. They do not light incense. They do not chant. They sit. Sometimes in pairs, sometimes alone. They read your writings by lantern light and stare into the valley where you once sat. And in that stillness, they learn. The Book of Five Rings is copied, translated, passed from hand to hand, generation to generation. Warriors study it, leaders quote it, artists draw from it. Businessmen adopt its strategies without always understanding its soul, and yet it endures. Because your words were not instructions, they were reflections. Not a map, but a mirror. And the world, fractured, fast, confused, still seeks that kind of clarity. But beyond the legacy, beyond the influence, beyond the ink, there remains something else. Something quieter, something more enduring than any strategy or scroll. A presence, a lesson, a way, not of fighting, but of being. You taught in the end not how to win, but how to see. To see the opening before the strike. To see the thought before the emotion. To see the illusion before it becomes belief. To see the self before it disappears behind roles, names, and fear. And if someone listens closely, beneath the rustling of leaves, beneath the call of the wind, beneath the sound of sword on stone, they might still hear you, not in words, but in rhythm, in space, in silence. Because in the end, your greatest victory was not over another man. It was over the need to fight at all. Your life, Musashi, was not just a path through war. It was a path through self. And the final step of that path, still, quiet, complete, is where every seeker will one day arrive if they have the patience, the courage, and the stillness to walk it, slowly, gently, one breath at a time.